Home Planet says making the able-bodied poor work for free if no one will pay them to get health care is so vile, you have to go back to the mission system to find any charity so low. That's an interesting, that's something that I've actually really been struggling with. Sometimes people will say something and you're like, that makes sense, I guess. And you got to sort of wrestle with it, right? And so, like with this new bill, there's provisions in there that say, so for Medicaid, for example, you have to, I think you got to work 20 hours. And if you don't have a job, then you got to volunteer for 20 hours a week. Well, I don't think they understand just how difficult that is to volunteer for 20 hours a week. There aren't a lot of opportunities to volunteer for 20 hours a week. People are going to have like 6 or 7 different volunteer jobs to do, but getting sidetracked. Why is it that we feel the need to label people as deserving? Why do I need to label you as deserving of my help? Why do I need to label those folks as deserving of my help in order for me to help them? Because really that's what this is about, right? And I remember reading a couple of posts from some senators and some congressional representatives who were talking about that. Like, we're not cutting Medicaid. We're just making sure that the deserving get it. People that deserve it are the ones that are getting. People that really need it are the ones that are getting it. And I thought, well, that's a very, very subjective thing. Who decides who is and is not deserving? Like, you can say, well, obviously the government does because they've said 20 hours. And that's one of the metrics that they've put on it. But there's other metrics that they're going to use to decide whether or not somebody is deserving. And again, it makes sense, because we don't want people just sitting around. Sitting around on their couches? Was a Tim Burchett said something along those lines? Get off their asses, get their asses off their couch or something. Anyway, whatever it was, I could be confusing what many people have said. So, I apologize if I'm conflating those statements. For some reason, we need to believe that a person is deserving of our help. And I'm curious as to why. Is it because we don't want to feel like we're being taken advantage of? Does it come back to what we were talking about earlier when it comes to competition, that, I got to make sure that you deserve it, or I'm giving you a leg up ahead of me and I don't need to do that. You're going to take from my wealth and you're going to get free health care. You're going to get nutritious foods. And what, you're just going to sit around and do nothing? But we have this need. We have this need to judge whether or not a person is deserving of our assistance. And yet when I go to the Gospels, nope. It's not there. Jesus doesn't say, help out the widow who is unable to provide for herself. He says, help out the widows and the orphans. He doesn't say, help out the orphans who can't go get a job. He says, help out the orphans. He doesn't tell us to when Jesus fed the 4,000 or when Jesus fed the 5,000, he said, listen, I'm going to pass some fish out here, but if you don't deserve it, you shouldn't take it. No, he just feeds 5,000 people. He just feeds thousands of people. He just talks to thousands of people. There's no distinction. He makes no distinction between folks who deserve it and folks who don't. Just tells us to do it. Don't judge. Just do. Don't judge whether or not a person meets your standard for deserving your help. I'm telling you to help everyone. And you know what? Yeah, you're going to have people who will take advantage of the system. Absolutely. There's no way around it. You're going to have that no matter what. I think maybe my question of why do we need to determine, why do we need to judge whether or not somebody is deserving? I think that's the wrong question. I think maybe the question is, can we learn to just help because somebody asks for it? And what would that do? Like, what would it do to us if we just helped because somebody asked for it? If we just help somebody, but they don't have a job, they do sit in their couch, they are playing video games too much. Does that mean they don't deserve to be seen by a doctor? Does that mean they don't deserve food? I mean, there's certain things that are just well, human rights. It should be our right to eat, to have clean water. It should be our right to have a roof over our head and clothes on our back. Those should be rights. Everybody should have a right to those things. Maybe instead of seeing those things as privileges and desperately trying to prevent somebody from taking advantage of our good nature and our desire, our charitableness, maybe we just provide for everybody and then allow them to decide for themselves that they want more. And let them work for that. Let them work for more. We provide for the basics, and they work for more. Or not. Maybe they get tired of living in a one-bedroom. They think, you know what? I want more. I want a family, so I'm going to work for more. I want the fancy car, so I'm going to work for more. I want a bigger screen to play video games on more often, so I'm going to work for more. So maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the key. We stop deciding. We stop judging who is and is not worthy of what really should be basic human rights, and we just provide. And we let them go after more. We're not to judge. I mean, I know we've had that discussion before. Whenever you use the word judge, but we're not to label people lazy, bad, glutton. We're not to label. We're not to judge who is and is not worthy. We're just supposed to help. We're not to condemn people because they don't have the same drive that we do, or because they don't want the same things we do. We're just called to help. So let's just friggin' help. Let's set aside the determinations of who is and is not deserving of our assistance, who is and is not deserving of really our love. And let's just love. Let's just give. And when somebody takes advantage of us, don't take it personally. We're just here to provide. Everybody deserves food. Everybody deserves clean water. Everybody deserves a roof over their head. Everybody deserves the opportunity to see a doctor. The opportunity to receive health care. Let's give them that. I think we'd all sleep better at night. Amen.